Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Virginia 10 2022 Congressional Art Competition, one of my favorite things I get to do as a member of Congress. I'm so excited to celebrate the remarkable artistic talent and hard work of more than 75 Virginia 10 students. I'm absolutely blown away by your abilities and grateful for your participation in the competition. It's always so encouraging to see young people who are so passionate about the arts. It's important that you seek out a holistic education that means not just academics, but also the arts as well. The Congressional Art Competition has encouraged creative expression through art for nearly 40 years and helps us recognize the importance of arts to our communities. I want to thank the teachers and parents who supported the students. I want to thank our distinguished judges who helped make this competition possible for taking the time to review our submissions. They are Brittany Root, Elizabeth Bracey, Abby Gomez, and Tenney Jarvis. Unfortunately, Liz is the only one who's able to join us today, so I'll give her just a moment to introduce herself, if that's okay. Liz, take it away.
Sure. I'm Tenney Jarvis. I'm the former chair of the Arts Council in the town of Purcellville, and I grew up in a household with a fine arts professor. So my whole world is all about art appreciation and promoting the arts, and an arts advocate. And I've judged many competitions actually, and curated several art shows.
We're so happy to have you with us. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise to Virginia 10's art competition. And of course, Tammy Davis in my office, who handled everything behind the scenes, is going to be pinch hitting for some of our other judges as well.
And Congresswoman, we do have, I just received word from Brittany Root, who will be joining us shortly. So I'll have her give a brief introduction of herself when she goes to speak about an award.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Now it's my honor to introduce our special guest speaker this evening, Dr. Lauren Anke. Dr. Lauren Anke of George Washington University is the director of the Corcoran School of Arts and Design. She's a longtime educator, scholar, producer, and museum professional. Dr. Anke most recently served as senior director at NPR Music, that's National Public Radio Music, where she led a team of journalists, critics, and media makers and provided the editorial vision in creating innovative cross-platform music journalism. She has more than 2 decades of experience, ranging from directing the NPR music team to developing and managing award-winning education and community programs as the Vice President of Education and Public Programming at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Cleveland. And there were some really great inductees that just got inducted, I guess, yesterday, including Dolly Parton and some other Duran who were from my childhood. But anyway, so it's great to have you with us, Lauren. Take it away.
I'm next, yes?
You are. Yep,
yes,
it's your turn.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman, and I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations, first and foremost, to all of the artists who submitted your work. It was really exciting to see all of it, and all of the teachers that really helped set the stage for such wonderful expressions of creativity. And of course, all the family and friends that help support that process. Sometimes creative people demand lots from the people that they love, and it's great to see that kind of supportive environment, and such a supportive environment for the arts generally. As the Congresswoman mentioned, I am the director of the Corcoran School of the Arts of Design here in Washington, D.C. I'm in our building right now. There's a drawing of it behind me, and across the street is the Vice President's office and the White House, literally across the street from where I am. So it's interesting to think of the arts also in the world, and what arts mean to us in all kinds of ways in how we live our lives. We house here at the Corcoran School of the Arts and Design a number of programs across disciplines. So we've got studio arts and design in architecture, but also the performing arts, theater, music, dance, as well as people who are learning to work in museum studies in our museum studies program. So we like to think about the arts in multiple places, right? So even if you are a wonderful painter or a great musician, you may be really interested in what your friends who are doing graphic design are thinking. So how do we, I love to think about the arts as a whole canvas of different practices that we use, and how a lot of different ideas come together. But I wanted to reflect for a minute on why art matters. Why the Congresswoman is here taking valuable time to support the arts. Why does art matter to us. Art doesn't necessarily pass a bill in Congress, and art may not make people money, but art is really key to our self-expression as humans. I mean, I certainly know that for myself, it started when I was a teenager and it's continued. Music is a place that really helps me figure out my own place in the world. And it helps me develop new ideas in dialogue with other creators. So I think the arts is a place that we can think differently than we do in more sort of logical and rational kinds of expression. But it's also key to how we connect with other people. The way that arts helps us build community. We had an arts opening here in our building last week, and it was the first in-person art show that we were able to host since 2019. And one of the things I got to see was students showing their artwork, their photography, their sculpture, and watching audiences interact with the work that they did and having a conversation about what they created and why. And we even had some of the subjects of the photography students come and see the photos made of them. We had a woman who had spent a number of years homeless here in Washington, D.C., and she was the subject of a number of the students' photos. And there she was sort of interacting with how the artist imagined her life. So that kind of dialogue that the arts sparks, I think, is so powerful to who we are. And it also helps us, get to new ideas and new ways of thinking and new people at the table in our lives. I thought a little bit too about creativity and what that means. And I don't know if you all know who Questlove is. He's the drummer for the hip hop band The Roots, and he leads the house band for the Jimmy Fallon Show. But he's got this great book called Creative Quest that I've found really inspiring. And he sparked a lot of great ideas for me about creativity. But he has this line: creativity is the personality that makes it possible that something new and something valuable can be formed. So, some of you may go on to careers in the arts in all kinds of ways, but many of you won't. But having an experience of really tapping into your creativity is going to be useful to you in all kinds of places in your work and in your life. Creativity means you're taking the world that exists around you and you're making something new from it. And I would really encourage you all to really connect and attach yourself to people who are doing things that you don't understand yet, or that intrigue you, and learn from them. And to really expand your artistic experience. If you're a painter, go to see musicians play. If you're doing design, study dance. Also embrace limits. I was the executive producer for Tiny Desk Concerts, which is, some of you may know Tiny Desk Concerts from YouTube. And Tiny Desk Concerts puts limits around musicians. They can only play 3 songs. They have no special lighting, and they can't have any stage monitors, and they have to play instruments. And this is for artists who don't typically play instruments in many cases. And so by putting limits around their creativity, they are able to create something very new and very special. So when you hit a limit or a new framework, don't always fight it. Think about how it can force you to make new and exciting creative decisions. And, ask yourself to always change. Think about what new things you can learn. The last thing I want to say is something, I guess, maybe more practical. And that is that in addition to the kind of work you can do in your life as a maker, as a performer, as a creative person, there are so many job opportunities in the arts. People that work at museums, people that work at art galleries, people that work at Performing Arts Center. I recently met somebody who runs the New Jersey Arena in Newark, New Jersey, where there's major concerts and sporting events. And he was a theater graduate from here at George Washington University. So the arts is a really dynamic economy for us, even beyond those that we create. So I think that what you've done in this whole endeavor is to really tap into such important skills in yourself that you can carry into so many places. And it's been really, really inspiring to see what you all can do. So thank you for having me, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anki, for that great advice and those very wise words. You know, for me, I think art is really about feeling something, you know, seeing something and feeling something, and maybe it's just seeing things in a slightly different perspective than I usually do. So that's what art's about for me. And I'll just tell you, my mom was an economist throughout her entire career, but when she retired, she became a docent at the National Gallery because she loves art so much. And she really wanted to be able to share her love of art with others. And so she does it kind of as a tour guide, taking people on tours of the National Gallery. And she's as happy as can be because we have so many great resources here in DC and in the general area. So we have a lot of opportunities. Yep, for free as well. Yep, that's good. That's a good point. So thank you so much for those wonderful words of advice. And now comes the time everybody's been waiting for. Time to announce the winners.
Well, Dr. Anki, I just wanted to comment to one of the things that I thought you said was particularly powerful about this is art gives us an opportunity to connect and to build community. And as a person that I don't perceive myself as a maker or a creator of, you know, I can't paint, draw, or computer graphic or photograph the way you amazing art students can. But every time I look at your work, I'm able to connect with you, and you're able to share with me something very unique about yourself. And I think that connection is so valuable. And we've made all sorts of accommodations to adjust to COVID. And it is my most sincere hope that next year we'll be at a point where we can go back to a live exhibit, because there's just nothing that beats it. Like Dr. Anki said, where, you know, the artists can watch and observe people engage and be moved by their art. So, and we've just been joined by one of our judges, Brittany Root. She was just finishing teaching a class and had to hop on her way over here, and we'll have her take a quick moment to introduce herself, and then I will go back and introduce the photography awards.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you great.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brittany Root. I was one of the judges, returning judges, and I teach art at the Langley School in McLean, Virginia. And I also teach over at Art House 7. I've been a practicing artist for a while. I have run for-profit art galleries in the past. And so I am just absolutely thrilled to be included in this group of judges and to have seen all this beautiful work and just blown away by the talent out there that I'm sure has already been said. But there were certainly some categories that were very, very challenging for us to deliberate over, because there was just a wealth of talent to consider.
Thank you, Brittany. So we're going to start off with the category of photography and giving you just a little bit of history. When we first started our first Congressional art competition, I had this magnificent panel of judges that came in and viewed all of this, and they said, there is no way we can offer one best in show. That's just not possible. So they were the ones that really helped craft this, where we broke it down into categories, and in each category we're identifying a first and a second place, and then several honorable mentions, which were pieces that just got the judges really talking about some aspect of that work. So with photography, we're going to start off with our honorable mentions. And I believe, Justin, have some slides to go with that. Oh, yep, here we go. All right, so with this honorable mention, this piece is titled Head in the Clouds by Alexa Fretwell. And the judges were really captivated by just the play of light and the texture that was created with that play of shadow and light. Justin, the next one. And this one is, I think, a piece that's near and dear to the Congresswoman's heart and her strong support and platform. But it's called American Pride. And we've got this beautiful rainbow over the Capitol. Next one. Oh, I'm sorry. And American Pride was by Alexander Footen. And our third honorable mention is, oh wait, I'm sorry. We're moving on to our second place piece, which is called Three Captains. And this is by Grace Meehan. And our first place for photography was definitely a very inspiring, unique use of light. This is Storm of Thoughts by Logan Schnelzer. So that does it for our photography. Brittany, do you have that document that I sent with the other?
Yes, I do.
Why don't I have you, if you could talk about the digital computer-generated art, the honorable mention, the second and the first place, and then you can go into drawing, and then we'll have Liz do some.
Okay, that sounds like a All right, so we are starting. We're starting off with honorable mention. This one is, Tammy, help me out here.
Experiation by Samantha Wijada.
Okay, great. Okay, so I just want to make sure we had the right line with this slide here. So we were, as judges, we were drawn into this one. It felt very storybook-like. You're sort of wondering, is it sort of this dystopian story that's happening? She's got this barcode across her neck. So we were intrigued by the story kind of playing out in the scene with this antique clock in the background. So that captured our attention too. One of the things that we were looking for in the digital art was kind of use of color, layering, how the artist chose to blend and portray their art that way. The clawing at the hands are reaching for the neck, which we were kind of, also kind of intrigued by. So that's what this one was put into.
The next.
This one is Public Meltdown, Worldwide Broadcast by Emma Gu. This one was captivating. Some of the judges felt that it reflected what young people today are going through in terms of viewing their self-image through social media and the role of social media in shaping their self-image and how potentially that can be very destructive and can lead to a lot of mental health challenges for young people. So we thought that this one really spoke to those struggles and traumas that young people are going through. And so that was why this one was picked. This one is Rose Garden by Sten Gustafen. This one was just, I think all the judges agreed that the use of color was just beautifully done, very subtle. The layering of this piece felt very accomplished. The use of line and composition felt very strong in this piece.
And that was our second place entry for the digital.
And this one won first place for digital, Temptation by Matthew Pasaro. Similarly drawn to the storybook quality of this. We were intrigued by what was happening between the winged figure and her reflection. There seemed to be some sort of conversation there. The reaching hands, was also intriguing in terms of telling the story. Like, is she reflecting on things that have happened in her past? And also the use, again, of layering, the representing the water, the lightness of the feathers sitting on top of the water, and also getting that light to kind of come through from the back of the piece, and getting that translucent feeling through those feathers in the back.
Great. And that was our first place for the digital. So moving on to our next category, we have drawings. And Brittany, being a skilled in this art form as well, is going to take a few minutes to talk about our honorable mentions and our second and first places.
Okay, and then again, just making sure that I'm on the
This one's intertwined.
Okay.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. No, I apologize. The Priestess.
The Priestess. Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. So we didn't have the titles. The reason that we don't necessarily know the titles is because we were not looking at the titles or the descriptions while we were viewing the piece. So we were trying to look at these as objectively as possible and judging it based on the merits like in front of us, and not trying to be influenced too much by the description or the title. So this is Priestess by Lorena, Alfred. This one was just like, there weren't too many surreal pieces that were submitted, and to do surreal is to pull it off well is very difficult, and to do that while also being technically accomplished in drawing, and getting that really nice range of values in there and textures, from the hair to the flow of the dress to the buildings that are kind of like on the hem of her dress, and this great sense of movement through the piece. So that's why we selected this one.
And this is from A Bunny's Perspective.
Bunny's
Perspective. Yasmi Abusay. Honorable mention.
Honorable mention for this one. So this one, all the judges fell in love with this one. You've got that foreshortened bunny face kind of coming at you. But not only, is the subject endearing, but it is done so with great sophistication and skill in the medium. The texture of the fur, you've got this wonderful background, this contrast in textures between this very clearly rendered bunny and a more loosely rendered background. So that background really falls back and that bunny comes forward. You have the reflection of the grass on the bunny's chest. So you've got this great use of color and truly mastery of this medium.
And our next one is also honorable mention, and this is Intertwined by Phoebe Pan.
So this one is just jumped out of this for its content, as well as its technical skill. This story of this relationship between Eastern and Western cultures, sort of kind of speaking to this more globalized society that we live in, is partly how we interpreted it, and also just, again, tremendous skill in color and value representation here.
Very good. And our next piece is going to be our second place, which is titled Performance by Proxy, and it was created by Manmai Gaisei. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And our exhibit will have the names and the pieces on it starting next week, so that you can view all of the pieces and the artists that created it.
So this one, it feels a little bit more faded in this particular picture of it. The one that is on the Flickr account, so definitely go check that out, is a lot brighter and more vibrant. But even without that, you can absolutely see the technical skill here. Being able to render hands like that is very hard. and then you've got this wonderful variation on the cello, like the nicks and cracks on the cello being beautifully rendered. So not just the technical skill, but the story that is sort of emerging from this is the musician becoming one with the cello? Is the cello kind of taking over control of this musician's life? The musician and the instrument kind of being one, and sort of the struggle of mastery of one over the other is kind of seems to be playing out here, which we thought that this artist kind of represented here in a really creative way.
Great. And our first place for this category is The Price of Freedom, created by An Wen.
So we selected this particular one for first in this category. I've talked a little bit about value, representing value in paintings, getting that, or excuse me, in art in general, not just painting, but in art in general. If you can nail value, your piece it's going to really help your piece be successful. So not only nailing value, but being able to have like a nuanced ability to represent value is such a skill and such an art in and of itself. And we feel like this piece really captures that skill. You can see it in the hair, the eyes, the tear coming down. Not only is that value mastered in this piece, it's done so with such great sophistication and subtlety. So the technical skill is incredible in this piece. And the message, I think one of the things that you could read into it is just what all children in our country have been through over the last couple of years with COVID. And so it resonated with the judges in terms of potentially the message that artist was trying to convey.
Thank you, Brittany. And Liz, we're going to have you go ahead and talk a little bit about the pieces for mixed media. And our first, our honorable mention for this one is Pain of Pandemic by Nora Thomas.
I'm just looking. I can't, for some reason, my comments have disappeared on I'm having technical difficulties here. So the comments for this particular piece, Tammy, can you see that?
Let me see if I can.
See. Hold on. I don't know why it's just suddenly not coming up.
They're not coming up for me either. Do you want me to speak a little bit to that, or?
Brittany, do you see them?
I don't.
Mixed media.
I don't see comments.
Well, I know that one of the discussions that we had about this, again, it has, Liz, there was composition and color features that really captured the judges. It's just such a unique, quirky perspective. And again, the colors of the exterior background really play off the interior color of the iris and the multi-colored there, and the vascular appearance in the eye. Just very, very clever and creative, and forcing us to look at something with a very different lens. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Liz?
Well, as Brittany said, there was not a lot of surreal pieces. And so for us, this one was a very striking image immediately when we looked at it. And again, it's the pain of the pandemic, right?
Yes, that was the title.
Mm-hmm. And us not seeing titles or names or anything like that made it so that we felt the true emotion of this piece, not influenced by titles or or any preconceived notions of it.
Okay. And our second place is titled Social Butterfly by Gabriella Hoover.
Yeah, again, this is something that we judges discussed, and that is this artwork in this show, in this competition, really gave us an insight into all the emotions and feelings that these students are having. And obviously this piece really spoke to that.
And I think we also kind of, it forced us to have this whole conversation about the phenomenon of the butterfly effect, that, you know, when a butterfly flaps its wings
That's
in
right.
one part of the world, it triggers a reaction elsewhere. And you can see the wide range of, you know, emotions and reactions on this face. And, you know, are the emotions causing a ripple effect, or was the butterfly impacting the emotion? It really triggered a very powerful conversation among the judges,
Yeah,
which was fascinating to listen to.
We had a big discussion about this. And also from a technical aspect, you know, we look at things like movement and the movement within the piece and so forth.
Great. And our first place for the mixed media is A Lifetime Later by Angela Tao Nguyen. I'm sorry, Angela Tao.
This is such an amazing piece. I mean, if you look at if you look at initially the composition of it, we have the hands, which as we were all discussing how hands are very difficult. So again, from a technical standpoint, the hands, and then if you look very carefully, you start to see the story of those hands. And you have to look very carefully. It's hard to see on this image here, but this is a lifetime, the life that those hands have experienced. I felt this is a very powerful piece, and we all agreed this was not only from the aesthetic, but also, I mean, the technical ability, but also the concept itself, very unique.
Yes, definitely. So, and our next category is painting. And Brittany, if I can share the titles, will you comment on the pieces?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So our first honorable mention is Magique Dancing Room, and it's by Ella Moyer.
So for this particular piece, we thought that this one really captured the joy of the art room and the joy of creating. It looks like our figure over here is having its own little dance party while the students are away. So it was like just a very fun, lively celebration of creativity. So thematically, we kind of, that resonated with us. But also, you know, the piece is just, it's well done. We've got the value part there, especially in the wooden figure that's being represented. And again, that concept of layering a piece, you've got an established foreground, midground, and background in this one. And so the artist handled that well.
Great. And our next honorable mention is Present for Parents.
Present for Parents.
And that's by Zoe Kovasan.
I love it. I love the title. So this one, the color is very unique in this particular one. I think you've got this compressed range of colors. It's mostly dominated by blues and greens. So you've got this sort of analogous color sort of harmony going on. And it's like interspersed with these moments of warm color. So the color, the use of color in this particular one felt very uniquely done compared to, in relation to some of the other pieces we were looking at. Also the use of texture, doing greenery like this, they can be very busy compositions. So being able to make decisions about, how much foliage are you representing? How much detail are you going to put in? So so this particular artist, like I think, demonstrated a great ability to make decisions about detail and texture, and how to convey a sense of space. And yeah, I thought that it was just beautifully done.
Yes. And our third honorable mention is Moving Day by Molly Kemp.
So this one, the judges kind of were starting to pull artists that this particular piece reminded them of. One judge felt like it was reminiscent of some of Hopper's pieces, the way that the way that this particular artist represented the color and texture of the walls. And another judge felt it reminded her of kind of a more depressing Van Gogh of one of his pieces, his bedroom pieces, when he was in an asylum, and it was sort of reflective of a more empty version of that. So there's a little bit of like sadness in the space. It's empty. There's sort of a little bit of sadness with the color, but it's also quiet and peaceful at the same time. So we felt this artist did a wonderful job of kind of capturing a mood and a sense of place, as well as like an interesting perspective.
And our second place is titled What Type of Leaves Are Those by Helen McCarty.
So this piece, this is probably one of the most challenging landscape composition types you could try and do. It's one way that you would describe it as like a cluster formation for landscape, where you're looking at a cluster of trees, a cluster of vegetation or rocks or whatever. So this cluster formation can get really busy. So the artist has to make a lot of really specific decisions about what to include, how to emphasize different elements in the painting without it making it feel too busy. So the artist, I think, did a wonderful job with mark making and line to bring out the texture in this particular piece. Used color to kind of, that compressed, limited color palette to bring that piece together. And that emphasis of these different parts of the tree, as well as that light coming through that canopy brings your eye into the middle of the piece. So we thought this was done very well.
Thank you. All right. So as we mentioned, this was a very challenging final decision for judges to make. And I'm going to let Congresswoman Wexton announce what is our Best in Show, which will go on to be put on display in the Capitol for the following year. And the artist will be able to join the other student artists from the districts from all across the country at a reception in Washington this summer.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I just would like to say that that's why we have real artists to actually describe the art that they judge and everything, because it definitely is not anything that I would have necessarily been able to articulate, but I certainly understand why you guys chose the pieces that you did, and great job. So thank you so much. So why don't we go ahead and bring up the slide, Justin, and then I'll talk about it. Best in Show is American Dream by Allison Jew. And I love this piece. This is going to hang in the Capitol. It's absolutely beautiful and so well done. This is from Allison, the comments from Allison. This piece is an homage to my grandma and her life as a Korean immigrant to the U.S. I wanted to celebrate her story by making a piece that signifies her success despite her hardship. And this is really remarkable. It's beautiful. It's got the kind of homage to the past in Korea, the very crowded places where she probably lived in Korea, and then when she first came to the U.S., and then the Statue of Liberty, in her reflection, and it's just beautiful. I mean, also the technical work in it is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm very excited, because every day when I walk through the Cannon Tunnel to the Capitol, I'm going to pass this and be very, very proud of us here in Virginia 10. But I'll toss it, if that's okay, to you, Liz, and to you, Brittany, to talk a little bit about what this image meant to you, and what this work meant to you.
Well, as you know, this is an incredibly difficult group of art to judge, because it's all so fantastic. And again, we're so honored to be able to review all of these pieces. This particular piece, though, for all the judges, we were in a rare agreement that this one really stood out. I mean, obviously, from a technical standpoint, this is a painting. And there's so much going on in this. It's not just even the obvious symbolism. It's the emotion that is drawn from the expression of the face of the subject. And it's just a remarkable piece. And it's so exciting that it will be in the Capitol.
Yeah, I think to sort of echo Liz, like this was a rare moment of unity in this process, where this one was absolutely stood out. I think the storytelling in it really comes through. It doesn't hit you over the head with the storytelling, but I think it resonated, I think, with the judges, and that coming to America from another place, taking that risk, leaving behind something familiar and coming to something unfamiliar. And so, I kind of took the warm colors of representing, the place that she's leaving as that sort of familiar, comforting thing. And, maybe coming into like a world that's a little unknown and maybe challenging. But, with that expression that she has, this sort of determination, you've got that determination comes through in her face and her eyes, that strength comes through that the artist was trying to capture, that she's going to make it. She's going to do everything she can to make it in this new world. And she's got, her culture that she comes from, and she's bringing that with her too. So we've got this sort of combination of cultures coming together here. So like that symbolism was just so powerful for all of us. And again, it's just fantastically painted. And you've got, I think one of the things that I love too, that's really subtle in this piece, is how she uses the power lines in the back. So the sort of use of like diagonal lines through those power lines that your eye might run off the edge of the painting, but then she brings those power lines back in again that kind of connect to the shoulder of her grandmother, and kind of draw you in. And then you start to see the lines in the turtleneck, and then you start to kind of pick up the lines that are where the Statue of Liberty is, the shadow of the Statue of Liberty is being cast onto. So these really subtle uses of line to kind of guide your eye around this painting. So you just keep moving around it. It's just very creative.
And speaking of lines, the way that she got the wrinkles around her grandmother's eyes is really also very remarkable, and just so much talent, so much great, technical talent there. Lauren, do you have anything that you've noticed about this image, about this painting that you'd like to talk about?
It just has a whole world, right? And just thematically, the transition of it, and there is a leaving of one world to another, but there's more fluidity than that, I think, that I get in the woman's body, that it's not either or, but both of those worlds are in her, and she has also just tremendous physical strength that really pops out. The craft here is extraordinary, as well as the theme and the story it's trying to tell. It's gorgeous.
Allison, thank you so much for your beautiful submission. I know that your grandma is very, very proud of you, as we are as well. I'm so excited to hang this in the Capitol. And those of you who didn't win the actual Best in Show, don't worry. If you're willing, we still will take some of them if you're willing to lend them to us for the next year. We love hanging them in our district office and in our Capitol Hill office as well. I often get compliments on the ones that I choose in my office in DC. So I'm hoping that somebody will lend me one as well. So thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Thank you for your submissions, and thank you for your interest in art. And thank you so much to the judges as well for helping us out yet another year, and Dr. Anki for your wonderful words. Take care, everybody. See you next year.